En este video podrás practicar tu comprensión auditiva y tu habilidad de lectura en inglés a través de una fascinante historia. Adoptaremos el método de inmersión total, presentando la narración y el texto exclusivamente en inglés, acompañados de su pronunciación para facilitar tu aprendizaje. Y para apoyarte en tu proceso, incluiremos en la descripción del video un glosario de vocabulario relevante extraído de la historia. Así que te invitamos a relajarte, utilizar tus auriculares y comenzar esta experiencia inmersiva en el idioma inglés. Let's start.
In a small town, there is a hidden back street. Inside the back street, you can find an old black door. It's said that no one can find that back street, but the back street can find you. Besides, inside lives a spirit which can only leave if someone opens the door. This spirit has no body or shape, so to be free, it must take over the body of the person who opens the door, trapping them in an unknown world, where they can only see the same old black door, but this time it's impossible to open. You'll be trapped until the spirit chooses another victim. However, it's still unknown whether this means you could be free again. This is the most popular tale of that small town. The one all the grandparents told their grandchildren. It was just fantasy. Or maybe not. Bill, an 11-year-old boy, went out every night to play with his soccer ball in the park. He was a lonely boy with no friends. He played silently at night when everyone was asleep. He lived only with his mother, who worked all day until midnight. So Bill had the freedom to play all night without any problems. The kids in the town described Bill as a grumpy and strange person. It wasn't possible to talk to him since Bill would hide in his house and not come out all day. But Bill wasn't always like this. He was a friendly kid, had friends, and was happy. Something happened to make Bill change so much. Fred was Bill's best friend when they were kids. Fred missed the long afternoons when they played soccer together, when Bill was different. But one day, everything just changed. Bill didn't go to school because he felt sick, and from that day, he was never the same again. He stopped going to school, stopped going out to play, and just repeated the same routine every day, going out at night to play alone in the park. Fred knew something was happening. He knew that his best friend needed help, but it was impossible to talk to him. However, one morning, Fred decided to wake up very early to talk to Bill's mother. She didn't know. Her son had stopped going to school a long time ago. Fred had a quick breakfast and ran to Bill's house. He knocked on the door nervously, hoping Bill's mother would be home. Fortunately, the lady opened the door and greeted Fred with a smile. Fred entered the house, looking for Bill, but he was still asleep. "Is something wrong?" Bill's mother asked, confused. "Excuse me, but yes, I think something is happening to my best friend. And I just want to help him," Fred replied, worried. Bill's mother sat next to Fred and listened carefully. She was surprised to hear that his son had stopped studying, no longer left the house, and played alone at night. When she came home, Bill was always asleep, and in the mornings she could only give him a goodbye kiss before leaving for work. She had no time to talk to Bill. She felt disappointed in herself. Her son was going through something unknown, was a lonely and completely different child. And she had no idea about anything. She called her work to explain that she wouldn't be able to come that day. And together with Fred, they walked to Bill's room. Fred was nervous and excited. Maybe he could talk to his best friend again. He really missed him a lot. Bill's mother knocked on the door twice, but no one answered. So she tried to open the door, but she couldn't. Both started to get scared. They banged on the door harder and shouted Bill's name. But no one responded. Finally, the door opened, but they realized Bill wasn't in his room. That wasn't good. Bill only left his house at night. The window was open. Fred ran to the window and saw Bill walking toward some place. Fred and Bill's mother left the house to follow the young boy. But something wasn't right. They walked slowly. They couldn't run. Something was preventing them from moving properly. Bill was walking away, and they couldn't do anything. The streets were empty. There were no cars, no people. It seemed like a nightmare. Fred tried to run, but it was impossible. He tried to shout, but he could only whisper. Bill's mother was in the same situation. She was crying, and her face showed desperation. Fred saw Bill enter a back street, and then he remembered the story of the hidden back street. But it was just a story. It couldn't be true. It was just fantasy, just a bedtime story. However, Fred also remembered that day. One afternoon, while playing soccer with Bill, Fred kicked the ball far away, and Bill ran to look for it. The ball had left the park, and Bill followed it. Fred took a break to drink water. Bill disappeared for several minutes. The ball had gone too far. When Fred began to worry, he saw Bill return with the ball. His hands had black spots, and his eyes looked different. But Fred didn't pay attention to that, and they continued playing. The next day, Bill didn't go to school, and everything changed. Fred understood. That day, Bill had found the hidden back street, and maybe now he was returning to that place. Fred realized he could run, so ran desperately, looking for Bill, and suddenly, everything turned dark. Fred woke up in his room. It was 9 a.m., according to his clock. He was still very confused. It was only a dream? He had a severe headache, but he needed to know what happened to his best friend. He got up from his bed and left his room, but his mother stopped him. Fred, you're sick. Go back to your room. Fred looked at her, confused. He didn't understand anything. What happened? Mom, do you know how Bill is? Is he okay? How did I get to my room? His mother smiled tenderly. Which question do you want me to answer first? All of them, Fred exclaimed, desperate. He was so confused, and his mother's attitude made him more nervous. Bill is fine. You played all afternoon in the park yesterday. He must be sleeping right now. And you came back, tired from playing, had dinner, and went to bed early. It had all been a dream. Just a dream. Bill was not the grumpy and lonely boy. He was the same friendly boy as always, and the hidden back street didn't exist. It was just a story. However, something was missing. His hands had dark spots. He immediately saw the date and realized that it was the same day when everything changed, but now he felt sick. He ran to see himself in the mirror. He looked dirty, scared, and was wearing the same clothes from the previous day. And then he understood everything. He was trapped in a different world. He wasn't inside the mirror, but he wasn't inside his room either. He could see another boy, identical to him, wearing his pajamas, but it wasn't him. He started to panic and shouted, calling for his mom. Suddenly, the mirror turned into an old black door. He tried to open it, but it was impossible. Fred was trapped in a strange and unknown world. Maybe it's just another dream. Maybe it's just a nightmare. But since that day, Fred never left his house, never spoke to anyone, and only played every night in the same park.